So today we are going to go over a calendar video, the one I've promised for a while. I'm going to go over a couple examples first to kind of set some stage for it, and then I'll dive right into the details. I will leave a link if you want to just jump to the details. And also when it's done, if you want to DM me on my Instagram, Best Dressed CPA, and you want a copy of it, I'll give it to you directly. But with all that said, let's jump into the work today. So talking about calendaring, do you have a plan or is the day running you? A lot of people, they have good intentions and they feel like they're hustling. I appreciate hustlers. I think it's great. But if you're running around all the time with no plan, you're starting and stopping a lot. It's really inefficient. So there's definitely something there that we need to improve. And we're doing these time exercises and these calendar exercises with the intent of improving the use of our time, hoping to find some extra that we can allocate to goals or other things that we're trying to do. So we have to own that there is something wrong in what we're currently doing and that we're looking for an improvement. The accountability side of this exercise is tough, but we have to own it if we want to make changes. Another thing for people that like to run around all the time, there is an aspect of not wanting to be accountable. And whether you're doing it on purpose or whether it's subconscious, I just want to point it out as a concept. If you're running around all the time, you're working hard. You're going to feel good, or at least you'll tell yourself, I felt good because I ran hard all day long. So you did that hard work. You feel like that was productive. But if you don't have any goals or set parameters or things to lock yourself into, there's really nothing to compare yourself against. And if you don't have any comparison, you can't say you failed. So sometimes there's this setup of avoiding accountability that we're subconsciously doing when we set up our plan or we don't have a plan. So part of the calendar is going to lock some of that in. So let's get ready for some of that accountability that may come up and tell ourselves we're going to be okay with it, especially some of these changes. So I'm going to start with a story, one of my own flaws, but it will relate into what we're doing. One of the goals that I have is that I want to read books every year. I have a whole shelf full of books. Been telling myself for a while I'm going to read all of them. Through this last year, I got through 6. Not a major accomplishment, but I did read some books. So what I found was it wasn't a goal that I'd put on my list. It wasn't something that I had put into my calendar. And so it was just something I was trying to get done within my day if it just happened to work. It was one of my developmental goals on the back burner, we'll call it. Something I wanted to do, but not really documented anywhere. What ultimately would happen is I would get home at the end of a day. I'd done my 8 to 5, what I had on the calendar, and I'd get home and have some spare time. I said, I'll try to read the book. I'm going to try to do my goal. And I wasn't in the space for reading a book where I could actually intake it and learn from it. And I knew it, so I put the book down. I wasn't going to get anything out of it. I was just going to pass the pages. I wanted it to be useful. The other thing I would try to do is in the middle of the day, I'd be like, well, the end of the day isn't working. Let me try the middle of the day. So I'd knock out a couple meetings at the office, bring my book in, and I'd be like, let me read through this book. Around my lunchtime, I'll read the book as my break. And I found that after doing 3 meetings with clients, my brain was burnt out from the focus of what I was doing, and it still wasn't a good time for this book. So ultimately, I had a goal to read the books, and I did read some, but it wasn't at the level of what I wanted. But ultimately, I wasn't achieving it because it wasn't really set into a timetable where I was going to have success, because what it went around and it required a certain amount of focus. You only have so much of that. And I'm using this as an example because we're going to go into the calendar and we're going to block out your day for things that you want. And we're going to call it your successful week, a perfect week. Perfect week isn't going to happen every time, but it will happen some of the time. And with a plan, hopefully it'll happen more often. But you have to own that as we put things on this calendar, it's possible the order of them isn't going to meet success. You look at it and you're just like, yep, this is a perfect week. But we have to be honest with ourselves of bandwidth and focus. How many hard things can I work on where I might need to change it up and have something that's a little more passive? Maybe I do some phone calls or something, and then I'm going to be working on Excel for my career path, but it's going to be different for what you're doing. But we need to be mindful when we make these calendars that the order that we're doing might need to be adjusted around once we start doing it. If I feel burnt out and I can't do the next task, it can't be hard thing after hard thing after hard thing. I'm always saying embrace the hard things, but there is a ebb and flow to it. There is a give and take. So I'm pointing out my own example, my own failure. Let's try to make this a little bit better. One thing in accountability that we're going to have to do in this, and I say there's 2 things in accountability before we can make any change. First, we have to own I am not accomplishing the goal. I am not reading the books that I want. Second, I have to change the process, my habits, my patterns, something to make the change. For me, I own that I didn't read the books. I'm looking at my goals. I'm looking at the end of the year. I want to make things different. I didn't meet it. So the change is I'm going to put it on my goals list that I'm going to review weekly, and I'm going to make a time specifically for reading, and I'm going to achieve my goal that way. And maybe after I've used that to achieve a better habit pattern, I won't have to have it as a primary goal, but I'm going to find the method that will work because now it's a higher priority goal than what I had before. Second example I want to go over is client relationships. So you have to create the environment with the plan of the end result that you want. If there isn't a plan in place for that, you're not really going to get it. You're hoping that it's going to happen. I try to call this training your client. It doesn't sound nice. It might be better like setting the expectation. But if you're not showing them how you want them to react or to respond to requests or data, or maybe you ask for stuff and they never give it to you and you allow that, you're setting the expectation that that response is acceptable. And if you're training them that way over and over again, you can't be mad when you ask for data and you don't get it, or whatever your version of that might be. So in this calendaring, we're going to rigid up the day a little bit. And when we do that, you might have some existing clients that don't like the changes that you're doing. They might like not answering the emails or phone calls or whatever it is. I'm using that as an example, but let's say that they've grown accustomed to that and that's what they want, and you're changing away from that. You may get some clients that don't want to follow the change you're doing and are rigid to it. There is a flaw here where you're going to want to keep all the clients. I'm trying to grow my business. Why would I lose some? You have to look at the improvements we're looking at versus the past that we've been stuck in. Which one do you want? You can't hold on to both. And a lot of people, when they start making these changes and their time and their calendar, the old stuff comes up and it feels familiar and they're going to want it. And they hijack their own calendar that we just made to go back to the old for whatever worry that they might have. I'm going to lose this client, this relationship, whatever it is. We're planning goals on how you want to achieve. We're setting a week that is your perfect week. And if we can achieve that, it is going to help your business grow. It's going to help you get over some of the roadblocks that you've had. If the people don't fit that, if they can't fit your new mold or your new process, and this is what's going to make you better, you have to own that you might have to let some go. So just using those two as an example, we're going to go through the calendar. It isn't as easy as just setting up the calendar. It will need some revision, and there is going to be some accountability on our side, and there's going to be some hard things maybe with some clients that we're going to have to change the client relationship. So just putting those things up front. When we do a calendar, it is best if it's printed out. And I know that we are in a modern world where everything's on your phone and that's what people like. But also everything on the phone can get forgotten and set aside and we don't look at it. There is something in the statistics of being more successful in having something printed, whether it's on my desk, maybe I have it taped on the glass at home. This calendar is a habit and a pattern cycle that we're trying to change into to be more successful. It is not going to be easy. We're going to be outside of what we're supposed to be and having to get ourselves back in line over and over again. The more places that we have that we can see this and consciously look at it, we're in the bathroom brushing our teeth and let me look at this again and review my day for tomorrow, make sure I'm going to stay on point. Or I just got off a phone call, let me look at my calendar and see what's the next box I'm supposed to be doing and holding myself accountable to it. Let's get those things right. Having it printed is the best method. I don't mind if you want to use something else on your side, it's fine. But if you want to go into this full bore, print it out, put it in a couple places, stay rigid to it, review it every couple weeks, you can make some changes. So all of that being said, let's jump over to the calendar for a little bit just to look at some setup. You'll see that we have a 8 to 5 week. I'm starting here at 8 o'clock, rolling down to 5. Now I mentioned before, you can change this to whatever time frame that you're going to need. It can be something different. I'm just doing 8 to 5 because that's what I did for work. You might have a different schedule where you work later or any other variables. I put some categories here on the right-hand side that you cannot see. Let me modify this for you. I wanted you to see that we had all the days of the week there, but I'm shrinking it down because I know a lot of you are looking at this on a phone and we need as much real estate as possible. I need you to be able to see this. Turn your phone to landscape mode, it'll help. But when we're in this, there's categories that I've put in, some just generic ones here. Remember when we did the time and action categories, we picked 2 or 3 and we listed a lot of things in there. I want you to go back to the time and action categories that you used and put them to work here in the categories that you're going to use in this section. So we mentioned that we want a perfect week. No plan means it'll never happen. And don't take it personal if when we get through this, it exposes some of our bad habits. And we got to stay motivated. We got to stay focused that this is the path to help us. I'm showing you an Excel version. I know that there's some people that really like the Apple calendar or Google Calendar. I don't mind if you use a different calendar than this one to make it work for you. I'm going to show you some of the functionality here, but you can manually do this with any other calendar. The only thing that I would say is if you're going to use another calendar, Create a new one that's just for this calendaring exercise. Don't commingle it with your normal family calendar or your normal work calendar that has a bunch of things to it and how it works already, because it's going to be commingled and you won't focus on it the same. And also, if you want the ability to print it out, it's going to be hard with all the other items on it. So if you do a calendar, keep it separate. So we're going to jump back in here. I'm sorry I've drug it out this long, but I do want to talk over a lot of the concepts. I am trying to give you some business coaching at the same time. So coming back into our default calendar, we are now going to look at the first item, income work. And for me, this is billable time, but it could be whatever it is for you. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to come down. Let's say I'm going to do this for the first part of the day. In fact, in this example, I'm just going to run most of the day. I'm going to run till 3 o'clock. I'm going to paste it and say, I'm going to do work on that. And maybe there's some stuff where I'm going to work on my business. And I'm going to do that on the tail part of the day. And Monday, I just want to come in and get to work and have an effective day. Now, I'm going to show you a couple things here in just functionality. You'll notice that it's given us a percentage. The blocks are in 30-minute windows. So this is 14 blocks. This is 4 blocks. It's just telling you how it's being used. Down here at the bottom, you'll see the totals. It's a 90-block work week. It's 45 hours because it includes the hour in the middle that would be for lunch or anything like that. But it lets you see the allocation. This is the unallocated. The white is the unallocated. So 72 blocks or 80% doesn't have anything allocated currently. And this does include the 3 days I hid just so we can see this. So I'm going to come back up here for what we were working on. And let's take lunch as an example. So I'm going to take the lunch item here. We're going to copy it. And I'm going to paste this over, let's say, the 12 to 1 block. And I'm going to post it on Monday and Tuesday. Now, I just covered up what we had for income work. And you'll notice up here before, income work used to be 14, and now it's 12. So one of the things I like about the functionality of this Excel sheet is I can come and cut and paste these boxes around. And I can put whatever words I want in here that fit for your customization. But I can cut and paste them around, and it's automatically going to change the percentages. And when you get done at a week and we're trying to plan this perfect week, you want to look at these cells and say, do I have the right percentage? Maybe I want 50% of working on my business. Maybe I want my lunches to be only half hour, or there's one for emails and calls. Look at the allocation and make sure that it's what you want. The overview is on the right-hand side with the percentages. So that piece is very useful to track and see the overall picture when this starts looking like a block of a whole bunch of numbers. I'll give you another example on here. Emails and calls is an item that I think is really important. So let's use this as an example. I'm going to say, I'm going to do emails and calls when I first come in the day, and maybe right after lunch. That's going to be the time that I do emails and calls. So this is probably one of the biggest things from an efficiency standpoint. Emails and calls are easily one of the things that take up your day and way more time than you think that it would take. So you're going to have a conflict with people wanting to call and immediately get a hold of you because that's really efficient. Over time, if there's certain windows that you call back and your team lets them know that that's the case, clients will get used to that. You've trained them now and they will follow that procedure. So it will work better. The other thing is, if you're not available, it's not like you want to give them no resources. The resource when it's not one of your windows is that they can work with one of your team members. And what they will learn in the process is they can get a lot of their answers done working with somebody else that you have available for them on demand like they like, but without it having to be you. And this will train them off of their need to talk to you constantly, emails, phone calls, whatever, and want the immediate demand. They'll see that your team is successful. And ultimately, we want to push more of our clients to interacting with the team members and still feeling like they're going to get the same value that our company is or our service company has created for them. So on the emails and calls, one of the other things I find funny, what if you're working with another professional who also has an emails and call window and none of your call windows line up? So yours is at one window, you call him, he calls you back on his window, you're not available. Ultimately, you're never going to talk. So there is an impasse that can happen here on the emails and calls. What you do in that space is you're allowed to move your blocks around. So let's just say right here, I have emails and calls, and I'm going to work on, instead of the emails and calls, let's say I was working on my business. And now I need to get back to emails and calls. When I'm done, I'll get to emails and calls. Now let's do the example in column 1, Monday. Let's say I come in and I need to do emails and calls at 10 o'clock because that's when that other professional is available. So I know on Monday, I'm going to move my emails to here. Well, I could also take my income work and replace what I had before, and it doesn't change any of my numbers. So I'm physically changing it on the calendar. You're not going to do that all the time. And even though this is a process for using the calendar, I don't want you hijacking your own calendar all the time. But using emails, because it's a very easy example, if there was a window where this is the only time we can talk to this client and we have to adjust to fit that, we swap it out with one of the other boxes. I want you to do it just visually in your head. You say, I'm going to swap this with the other box. When I get to that window, I'll make sure that I do the other task so that the allocation of my time for this week is still the same. And you're going to do that when you have changes. Clearly, if you do this too many times, you're going to get distracted, you're going to forget stuff, and it won't work. I also don't want you making manual changes to your calendar all of the time for simple things like this is one person on an email. Next week, I won't have it again. I'm not regularly talking with that person. So we want to keep the calendar as consistent as possible. I want you to fight to keep it rigid. Change your process to what this perfect week that you set up is. Now, there are going to be exceptions, so we'll make them, but don't make them all the time. So going back to the calendar, the other item that I like to mention is lunch. There'll be a lot of people that'll be like, well, I'm trying to make more time, so the easiest thing I can do is cut out lunch, right? I'll do a working lunch. I'll do my emails and calls while I'm doing lunch. I would strongly suggest against doing that. Lunch is one of the concepts where if you're working all the time and you think you're working at a high capacity and hard all the time, like you're never going to burn out, like that's just not going to happen to you, you have to have a balance. The lunch day in the middle of the day, even if you only take a half hour, but stepping away from your work, letting your brain relax from the process that you're doing, and then stepping back into it, you'll be more efficient and you'll have less burnout. You will be more productive with rest cycles. I know it's just lunch on a board, but let's not cut all of those out. Let's use some best practices. It is difficult to move into this calendar space, so we want to give ourselves some room to grow. So that's everything that I'm going to show on the calendar today. Like I said, if you want the template, I will get it out to you. Just DM me and I'll shoot you a copy. You can modify it, make whatever you want. You're going to go through the whole week. You're going to lay it out. You're going to look at your percentages and you're going to say, would this be a perfect week for me? And then you're going to try to accomplish that through the method that you're doing. Tell your admins, tell a colleague, let them know that you're working on this so that they'll check in on you and help you to be accountable. If you tell a few key people in your office that you're working on it, it will help you be more accountable even to yourself. Easy little hack to help yourself stay committed to it. We started with setting some goals. We went from goals into a time and action exercise where we really criticized how we were using time. We went from there into the calendar, so that's what we're going to use right now. From the calendar, we should see an improvement. The purpose of all of these exercises, time and calendar, is to make sure that we're allocating our time properly so we actually hit our goals, whether it's making money for the business, whether it's working on the business, whether it's improving systems so I don't have to be in the business all of the time. Whatever it is, it's going to be on the calendar. The goals start it. The time is how we analyze the changes. The calendar is where we put the roadmap together that we're going to rigidly stick to meet those goals. I promise you, if you do this process, you'll have more time. Your business will grow. I've done this. I've done it with a bunch of clients. It does work. There's a bunch of content here. I really want to help you succeed. So if there's more content you need, or if there's a part of this that's confusing, or if you have a success in it, please make a comment. I want to hear your feedback. Thank you for your time.